All rise, veuve lever. The International Criminal Court is now in session. L'audience de la Cour pénale internationale est ouverte. Please be seated. Veuve vous asseoir.
Good morning. I would like to welcome everybody here this morning, everybody who is in the courtroom and in the public gallery. Court officer, please call out the case.
Thank you, Madam President. The situation in the Republic of Mali in the case of the prosecutor versus Ahmad Al-Faqi Al-Mahdi. Case reference ICC 0112-0115. For the record, we are in open session.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the chamber, I welcome all the parties, the prosecutor and her team, the defense team, the suspect, Mr. Al-Mahdi, and the registry. At this point, I would like to invite the parties to introduce themselves, beginning with the Office of the Prosecutor.
Madam President, the Office of the Prosecutor is represented this morning by Gilles Dutertre, Senior Trial Lawyer, Colin Black, Trial Lawyer, Jaganaden Munisami, Trial Lawyer, Marie-Jean Sardachi, Trial Lawyer, Nelly Corbin, Associate Trial Lawyer, Sanja Bukolik, Case Manager, Sarah Kokio, Legal Assistant, Audrey Demeyer, Intern, and Fatou Bensouda, Prosecutor.
Thank you very much, Madam Prosecutor. Now I turn to the defense. Mr. Awine, would you be so kind as to present members of your team, please?
شكرا. صباح الخير السيدة الرئيسة، السادة القضاة المحترمين. أنا الأستاذ محمد عويني، المحامي لدى التعقيب، مسجل بالهيئة الوطنية للمحامين التونسيين. يشرفني أن أحضر أمامكم اليوم وأتولى الدفاع عن السيد أحمد الفقي المهدي أمام جناب غرفتكم المحترمة. ويحضر معي الأستاذ جان لوي جيليسان، وهو محامي مسجل بالجدول المحامين بلياج بلجيكا، ويساعدنا في هذه الجلسة كل من السيدة سيلفيان إما جلوجينو وهي مديرة القضية، والأستاذ كولان جيليسان مساعد. شكرا سيدة الرئيس، السادة القضاة المحترمين.
Thank you. Mr. Registrar, could you introduce yourself and the team who is here with you this morning, please?
Good morning, Madam President. On behalf of the registry this morning, it is myself, Herman van Hebel, Registrar, Thomas Henket, Legal Counsel, and Nigel Farrell, Chief of the Victims and Witness Section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Hebel. I will now introduce my colleagues, the judges of PTC 1 and the legal team of the judges. On my right is Judge Kuno Tafusa, and Kuno has been the single judge in this situation. And on my left is Judge Peter Kovac. In front of the bench, Mr. Gilbert Beatty, who is the Senior Legal Advisor to the Pretrial Division, and the legal officers, Mr. Mohamed El Zadi is here, and Ms. Sarah Raveling. Finally, I am Joyce Aloch, the presiding judge of this chamber. I now wish to make some brief clarifications, starting with the nature of this hearing and the role that the pretrial chamber has to play. In contrast to trial, this chamber does not have to decide on Mr. Al-Mahdi's guilt or innocence. Rather, our duty is to decide whether the case should be transmitted to trial by determining whether there is sufficient evidence to establish substantial grounds to believe that Mr. Al-Mahdi committed the crimes charged as provided for in Article 61(7) of the Rome Statute. Next, the chamber would like to affirm the general principles guiding this trial. First, the presumption of innocence according to which the suspect is presumed innocent until proven guilty pursuant to Article 66 of the Rome Statute. Secondly, it is the prosecutor who bears the burden of proof, and thus her office must provide evidence sufficient to prove the charge or charges as alleged. Third, the defense is provided with a set of rights enshrined in Articles 61(6) and 67 of the Rome Statute. Importantly, the defense always has the final word. Further, while there may be the need for closed or private sessions during the confirmation hearing to protect sensitive information, the general rule is that this hearing is public. In the decision establishing the schedule of this hearing, the chamber has arranged for 3 sessions of 1.5 hours each for today, and if needed, for tomorrow as well. The prosecutor will start making her presentation, followed by the defense. Thereafter, pursuant to Rule 122(8) of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, the parties will have the opportunity to make final observations, if any, in which they may respond to arguments raised during the hearing. No further written submissions will be allowed after the final observations presented orally during the confirmation hearing. I also wish to recall certain technicalities which will allow the hearing to run smoothly and uninterrupted. When referring to evidence, the parties must indicate the level of confidentiality of the evidence and whether a closed session is necessary. The chamber equally reminds the parties that during public sessions, they should not use anonymous witnesses and victims' names. They should refer to them by their respective pseudonym or witness code. Finally, I would request the parties not to speak too fast, and I hope I have not been speaking too fast, and to respect the 3-second rule, bearing in mind that there will be simultaneous interpretation, including into Arabic. In accordance with Rule 122(1) of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, I would now ask the court officer to read the charge or charges that has been presented by the prosecutor in the charging document. Court officer, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Ahmad Al-Faqi Al-Mahdi, born in Agoun, Mali, and of between 30 and 40 years old, is criminally responsible for having intentionally committed in Timbuktu between around 30 June 2012 and around 11 July 2012 the war crime of attacking buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments pursuant to and prohibited by Article 8(2)(e)(4) of the Rome Statute, the statute. Al-Mahdi is criminally responsible under the following modes of liability: as a direct co-perpetrator under Article 25(3)(a) of the statute, for soliciting and inducing the commission of such a crime under Article 25(3)(b) of the statute, for facilitating the commission of such a crime by aiding, abetting, or otherwise assisting in its commission under Article 25(3)(c) of the statute, and for contributing in any other way to the commission of such a crime by a group of persons acting with a common purpose under Article 25(3)(d) of the statute. Al-Mahdi is also criminally responsible as a direct perpetrator under Article 25(3)(a) of the statute for physically taking part in the attack against at least half of the targeted buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments. Fact and circumstances of the case. From January 2012, a non-international armed conflict broke out in the territory of Mali and led to different armed groups taking control of the north of the country. Thus, in early April 2012, the groups Ansar Din and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, Hakim, took control of Timbuktu. They occupied the city until mid-January 2013, when they fled in the face of the advance of the Malian army, supported by the French forces of Opération Serval. During these approximately 10 months, the members of Ansar Din and Hakim imposed their will in Timbuktu through a local government which included an Islamic tribunal, a morality brigade, Hizbah, and an Islamic police force. These structures exercised control over the population and significantly restricted and violated the rights and freedoms of the people of Timbuktu. Al-Mahdi was one of the local members who joined in and supported the action of the armed groups in Timbuktu. He was appointed to head of the Hizbah in April 2012. He set up this structure and oversaw it until September 2012. The Hizbah was in charge of regulating the morality of the people of Timbuktu and of suppressing and repressing anything perceived by the occupiers to contribute a visible vice. In addition to this role as head of the Hizbah, Al-Mahdi was very active in other structures set up by Hakim and Ansar Din in Timbuktu and in their operations. Indeed, he was viewed as an expert in matters of religion and as such was involved in their activities, including within the Islamic Tribunal. Al-Mahdi was also in direct contact with the leaders of Ansar Din and Hakim, continuously or intermittently present in Timbuktu, such as Iyad Agrali, the leader of Ansar Din, Abdou Zeid, the governor of Timbuktu under the armed group, Yahya Abu al-Haham, the future emir of Hakim for the Sahel, and Abdallah al-Shingiti, a religious scholar within Hakim. Prior to overseeing the attack in question against historic monuments and buildings dedicated to religion, Al-Mahdi was consulted about their destruction. Subsequently, in about late June 2012, Iyad Agrali took the decision to destroy the mausoleum in consultation with Abu Zaid, Yahya Abu al-Hamad, and Abdallah al-Shingiti. Their common plan was to attack and destroy buildings dedicated to religion, which were also historic monuments. Al-Mahdi subscribed to this common plan, as did various other members of Ansar Din and Hakim, and individuals associated with these groups or acting under their control. Al-Mahdi and his co-perpetrators therefore directed their attack against 9 mausoleums of Muslim saints and the door of a mosque. These buildings were cherished by the community, were used for religious practices, constituted an important part of the historical heritage of Timbuktu, and embodied the identity of the city, known as the Pearl of the Desert and the City of the 333 Saints. The attackers, including in particular Al-Mahdi, who oversaw their actions, carried out the attack between around 30 June 2012 and around 11 July 2012, going to the places they attacked with vehicles, weapons, and tools such as pickaxes and iron bars. Al-Mahdi and his co-perpetrators first attacked and destroyed the Sidi Mahmoud ben Omar Mohammed Akit Mausoleum, the Sheikh Mohammed Mahmoud Al-Arawani Mausoleum, the Sheikh Sidi El-Mokhtar ben Sidi Muhammad Al-Kabir Al-County Mausoleum, the Alpha Moya Mausoleum, the Sheikh Muhammad El-Miki Mausoleum, the Sheikh Abdul Qasim Atwati Mausoleum, and the Sheikh Sidi Ahmed Ben Abar Aragadi Mausoleum. The implementation of the common plan they continued in accordance with the original decision of late June 2012 to include the attack against the door of the Sidi Yahya Mosque and the two mausoleums adjoining the Jingareber Mosque, the Ahmed Fulane Mausoleum and the Bahaber Babadie Mausoleum, which lasted until around 11 July 2012. Within a period of about 10 days, 10 of the most important and well-known sites in Timbuktu, all located within the same perimeter, were attacked by the participants in the common plan, all of whom were driven by the same objectives, acted with the same intention, and utilized the same pretexts and arguments. These sites were buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments and did not constitute military objectives. Some had been designated as part of the national cultural heritage and, as such, were protected under the Malian legislation. With the exception of the Sheikh Mohammed Mahmoud Al-Arwani Mausoleum, these buildings were all protected World Heritage Sites. The attack against these buildings' monuments took place within the geographic and temporal context of a non-international armed conflict in Mali. The attack was closely connected with the conflict. Al-Mahdi was involved in all phases of the common plan: the planning phase, the preparatory phase, and the execution phase. The attackers considered the historic monument and buildings dedicated to religion that were attacked to be a visible vice. Their destruction, therefore, fell under the competence of the Hizbah. Al-Mahdi, who was the head of the Hizbah, freely oversaw the attack against the buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments. First, Al-Mahdi personally participated in the campaign against the religious use of the mausoleums. He identified and monitored the cemeteries visited by the residents. He met local religious leaders and others with the goal of dissuading the community from conducting religious practices on site at the mausoleums. He also used the radio for this purpose. Furthermore, he conducted research on their destruction. Then, he himself wrote the sermon on the destruction of the mausoleums, which was read at the Friday prayer on the eve of the launch of the attack. He also personally determined the sequence in which the building's monuments were to be attacked. Al-Mahdi then acted together with other individuals who adhered to the common plan, to which he contributed in the following ways. 1. He oversaw the attack. 2. He used his men from the Hizbah and supervised the other attackers who came to participate in the operations, he occasionally requested reinforcement to carry out the attack. 3. He managed the financial and material, e.g. tools, aspects in order to successfully carry out the attack and decide what means of destruction to employ based on the location. 4. He was present at all of the sites that were attacked, providing moral support to the attacker to whom he gave instructions. 5. He participated personally in the destruction of at least 5 sites: the Alpha Moya Mausoleum, the Sheikh Sidi Ahmed Ben Ammar Aragadi Mausoleum, the door of the Sidi Yahya Mosque, and 2 mausoleums, the Ahmed Fulane Mausoleum and the Bahaber Babadieh Mausoleum, adjoining the Jingareber Mosque. 6. He was responsible for providing a response to journalists which explained and justified the attack, thus encouraging the attackers and reassuring them with the idea that the attack was well-founded and justified. Al-Mahdi had the requisite intent. Indeed, he deliberately engaged in the conduct in question, namely the attack on buildings dedicated to religion and historic monument in Timbuktu, together with the other participants in the common plan. His intention was to attack and destroy the targeted buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments. He also intended to contribute to the commission of the crime by the co-perpetrators. Furthermore, Al-Mahdi acted with the requisite degree of knowledge. He knew that the buildings targeted were dedicated to religion and had a historic character and did not constitute military objectives. He was aware of the key characteristics of the co-perpetrators and identities that were involved in the attack, and of the circumstances that allowed him to exercise, together with other participants in the common plan, control over the attack in question. Al-Mahdi also understood the factual circumstances that established the existence of an armed conflict and knew that his criminal conduct took place within the context of an armed conflict and was associated with it. Al-Mahdi contributed to the commission of the attack in full knowledge of the intention of the other person taking part in it. He also knew that his acts would bring about or contribute to the commission of the crime of which he is accused. Charges. In view of the fact and circumstances set out supra, Al-Mahdi is criminally responsible for the war crime of directing an attack as set out in Article 8(2)(e)(4) of the statute. In Timbuktu, between approximately 30 June 2012 and 11 July 2012, he intentionally directed an attack against buildings dedicated to religion and historic monuments which were not military objectives, as follows: the Sidi Mahmoud Ben Omar Mohammed Akit Mausoleum, the Sheikh Mohammed Mahmoud Al-Arawani Mausoleum, the Sheikh Sidi El-Mokhtar Ben Sidi Muhammad Al-Kabir Al-County Mausoleum, the Alpha Moya Mausoleum, the Sheikh Muhammad Al-Miki Mausoleum, the Sheikh Abdul Qasim Atwati Mausoleum, the Sheikh Sidi Ahmed Ben Ammar Aragadi Mausoleum, the Sidi Yahya Mosque, the door, and the Bahaber Babadieh Mausoleum and the Ahmed Fulane Mausoleum, both adjoining the Jingareber Mosque. He is criminally responsible under Article 25(3)(a) as a direct co-perpetrator, Article 25(3)(b) for soliciting and inducing the commission of the crime, Article 25(3)(c) for facilitating the commission of such a crime by aiding, abetting, or otherwise assisting, and Article 25(3)(d) for contributing in any other way to the commission of such a crime by a group of persons acting with a common purpose. Al-Mahdi is also criminally responsible under Article 25(3)(a as a direct perpetrator for his physical participation in the attack intentionally directed against the Alpha Moya Mausoleum, the Sheikh Sidi Ahmed Ben Ammar Aragadi Mausoleum, the door of the Sidi Yahya Mosque, and the Ahmed Fulane Mausoleum and the Haber Babadier Mausoleum.
Mr. Al-Mahdi, I sincerely hope you understand the nature of these charges brought against you by the prosecution. Now, the bench.
نعم سيدتي الرئيسة، شكرا، فهمتها جيدا.
Thank you very much.